All right, I'm going to call the Planning Board and Zoning Commission meeting of July 8th, 2026 to order. Can I have roll call, please, Connor?
Roberts, Gray.
Yep.
Tupin. Yes. Eccles Bell, Boise.
Yes.
Andy Conley.
Here.
And Andy Benedetto.
Here. Review the minutes. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes with one correction. I believe there was a correction.
Yeah.
Susan's nodding her head.
I'll second.
The correction that I noted was on page 2, under communication from the mayor, number I. I thought what he said was that the city is required to acknowledge the FEMA would pay 75% of eligible costs, and the city would be responsible, that the owner would accept the 75%, that the city isn't going to be responsible for the remaining cost share unless otherwise other funding is available. It was my understanding that the owner of the Eagle's Nest was willing to accept 75% of the value. And I think that's what the mayor had said.
And we have that in writing from him. So that he understands that we will ask him.
So I think when it says, and instead of the city would be responsible for the remaining cost, I think it should say, and the owner has accepted or will accept 75% of eligible costs.
Did you get that, Connor?
Yep.
Any other comments?
Okay, this one is kind of weird, but on the first page of that, item number 3, where it says the board reviewed the draft minutes from June 24th. Well, that was June 24th, so the ones that were reviewed then were the ones for June 10th.
Minor detail.
Any other comments, corrections? The only other correction, I think, under board discussion, on page 3, E, board discussion, in addition to those 4 items that were listed, there was also a discussion whether the proposed sign was consistent with the downtown revitalization plan and master plan for the historic downtown streetscape.
I agree. Yeah, I think that should be in there as well.
Thank you.
So I guess I need amended.
I think I did amended to start with, so.
Is there a second on, did we get a second?
I second.
Okay. So can we have a roll call for approval of the minutes as amended?
Gray.
Yes.
Tupin.
Yes.
Boise.
Yes.
Conley.
Yes.
Andy Benedetto.
Yes. Okay, communication from the board and council. Perry's not here for Urban Renewal Agency, and we haven't met since our last city council or planning board meeting, so there's really nothing new to report there. City council rep.
Thank you. Haven't met since our last meeting.
Okay. And the county representative's not here, so communication from the mayor.
Not that I can think of. Jeremy, anything from our side?
We got the brick application submitted to the state last Thursday for the Eagles Nest acquisition. We did get one comment back from them. We're working with them on getting that updated. Should be done this week. And then I'm currently working on the flood mitigation assistance grant application currently right now, and should have that ready to go for submittal either Thursday or Friday. So
Okay,
Unless there's questions, I think I'm good.
any questions from the board regarding the Eagles Nest? Okay,
In reference to the minutes, and I dialed in, I couldn't figure out why that was on the agenda when we were talking about it. The part that the city would be responsible for is 25% of the demolition cost,
And I
if
believe,
we were not able to find other funding, so.
it says Westwood stated that the maximum likely city cost would be 25% of the demolition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
and
that part is accurate.
yes, thank you.
all right. Next on the agenda is public comment. But kind of quickly review the remainder of the agenda. We have no new business. Under old business, we're going to take up the application for the neon sign at 1112 Broadway Avenue South. And then after that, continue with review of the zoning regulations update. So right now, I'll open the floor to public comment. If anybody would like to come forward, please state your name and address and your comment, please.
Steve Smith, 517 North Hauser. I have a letter from my wife Hope and I, and this is in reference to the allowance of RV parks in the city. And I've got a couple copies today, but I don't know if I should make copies for all members.
I can. Are you sending it electronically as well?
I didn't, I could.
Yeah, because they're not taking action on it tonight, so as
I
long
know.
as we can get it in the record.
Yeah, well, I'll figure that out. And so you'll see this, and keep in mind that she and I are not experts on this subject, and we're not experts on growth policy or zoning. But we just have some random thoughts on the issue. We'd like you to read once and see what you think. One of the main things is in reviewing the recordings of previous planning board meetings and under the discussion of the RV park allowance question, the issue or the point was made that one of the positives of allowing RV parks was a possible alleviation of our affordable or workforce housing situation. And that's included in this, but that's all I'll talk about right now. I won't take too much of your time, but it's our opinion that an RV park is not really the appropriate place for any housing beyond that of a transient nature. I think there are better ways to solve the problem. They're not easy, but there are better ways to solve the problem of affordable / workforce housing. Don't think an RV park, which has a lot of positives, but one of them is not for workforce housing, in our opinion. As a side note, I called KOA. I said, well, we probably all know that KOA and Perry's are not open in the winter. Of course, that doesn't mean that someone would start a business with an RV park would maintain that. But I was curious as to pricing, and KOA charges for, I think one of the shortest type RVs is 30 feet. I don't know much about RVs, but for an RV 30 feet long, the space is $83 a night. And there is no weekly rate or monthly rate. That's it. So I don't know, again, back to the point of workforce housing, cheaper place to live for those types of workers. I don't know that an RV park is a good choice. I think I'll stop there, but you'll see our notes. And again, thank you for looking at them. They're don't come from a deep well of knowledge of all the subjects. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Hard copy, and I can go scan.
Any other public comments? Is there anybody online?
I don't see anybody raising a hand or unmuting a mic, so.
Okay. Towards the end of our meeting, will also be another opportunity for public comments on anything that was on the agenda or was discussed during our meeting. So, moving on to old business, continuation of the design review application for a neon sign. We're requested to come back with a revised design, which we just received and really haven't had a chance to look at it. Which I'll kind of turn it over to the applicant to kind of review what the revisions are. If you come up to the podium and,
I'm Kevin O'Cragley with, representing Sign Pro. So what we just submitted, what you have in front of you, the first page is the original design, as originally submitted. And you'll see that the total height on that, it's over here on the far left, shows a little over 6 feet. Page 2 is the revised design, and then in that same spot on the far left, right here, the height, you see the height is changed to 5 feet. And so that proportionately scales the sign down from the previous size to this size. And then if you look on page 3, that's just a before and after comparison of original as submitted versus the revised.
okay. Any other? I'm trying to look at the scaling on where the block that talks about the casino, it was originally what, 10 inches high, or it's hard to read, but
1 foot.
1 foot?
And then that's scaled down to 10 inches in the revision. 10 inches in the revision.
Is the original,
12 inches is the original, 10 inches is the revision.
is the revision? Okay. All right. Any questions from the board to the applicant?
How, I'm trying to decide here. So obviously, the crossbar that says casino is now at 3 feet 2 inches. And then the crossbar that holds it to the building, how wide is that? In other words, from the building to the edge of the neon sign, what's the dimension?
From the left edge of the sign to the,
Not the sign, the building. In other words, how far out is this going to be sticking from the building? It's not just the sign, but it's also the brace. So I don't know how,
so if you look at the very top, 3 feet 2 inches
right?
is the width of the sign. I don't have the exact width of the remainder of the gap to the building. If I had to estimate, that's going to be about 6 to 8 inches.
Additional.
We do have to leave enough space in there to be able to service the sign.
Sure. Yeah, obviously it can't be up against it.
I know I wasn't here for the last meeting. Where's it being attached to on the building?
There's,
I know, I have
Yeah.
my building's directly across the street, so. No, I know, but it's for,
So,
Yeah.
There's the casino part, and then there's the brick wall
Right.
between the bistro and the casino. It's on that.
On that wall, okay.
That stone wall.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was on the inside where they just put the new sign, so that's why I was asking.
It'd be on that stone wall on the exterior.
Yeah, between the bistro and,
Yep.
On the
Gotcha.
stacked stone.
thank you.
Any other questions? I guess the other, kind of hard to see the relationship to the wall. So is it, on the original, the attachments are shown, being attached basically to the stone wall, and is that still?
Yes, it'll be attached to that wall surface, correct.
So basically, it just reduces the height of the sign to 5 feet, but the bottom of the sign will still be attached pretty much where it was proposed originally.
No, because it's proportionately smaller, it'll come up proportionately from the ground.
So it'll be a little bit higher off the ground.
Yep.
You know about how much?
Well, let's see, it's 2 feet, so split the difference, it'd be roughly a foot.
What's that?
Roughly a foot,
Okay.
if we're going from 7 feet to 5 feet, roughly.
Did you explore the idea of, instead of it being perpendicular to the wall, sticking out in the street, having it flush up against the side of this wall?
That would
Well,
actually,
kind of
violate-
bracing.
that actually would not be permitted within the code to put it, there's not enough width on that surface.
Here,
So, yep, so that would actually not be permitted, so we do need to flag mount it.
so that would, the only place it could go would be sticking out.
That's correct.
Hmm.
Oop. And you're talking building code, correct?
It's the,
Electrical code?
The
or-
code- it's the, I believe the document that you have is not specifically sign code. I think it's a combination of building, sign, and advertising code. There's two documents that are, that you have published. One is outdoor advertising, and then the other one is building and signage and advertising guidelines. And so I'm referencing that, essentially both of those documents.
In our planning and zoning,
Yes,
don't recall that, any of that.
they're on the Red Lodge City website.
Hmm.
So between the sign that's already erected on the building and the sign, and this sign, what's the total square footage?
So the new total square footage, if we're 5 feet,
Up there, it's kind of small, but.
Do you have those numbers, Jeremy,
For,
in your report?
Sorry, what were you asking?
The total amount of signage between the sign that's erected on the building itself and then this proposed neon sign?
I can, hold on a second. Let me, just give me a minute. I can get that.
so the total square footage I have here is for both faces, if we are counting both sides of the flag sign and the wall sign, it's a combined total of 54.5. 54.5.
We only count one side face. We don't count both.
That's what I thought. Thank you. Yep. But so for just one, that would be,
So the sign that we approved on the front of the building was 22.5 square feet.
correct. Yep.
And then what is the sign area of this new sign? I had the old sign area, but I don't know what this one is.
5 by 3.2. So that would give us a total of 38.5.
Do you have any other comments, Jeremy?
I don't. I think that, based on, I guess my thoughts are based on the conversations that we had at the last meeting in regards to this sign. They've come back with a sign that meets the requirements that you kind of set in that last meeting, meaning scaling it down to 5 feet in height and scale the sign to that 5 feet in height. So I feel like they've kind of met that requirement. I will say I did actually just get an email from Brian indicating that he had forwarded me an email that he sent to the Historic Preservation Office, county office. I don't see a response from them, but it was sent to them for comment.
Okay.
So I think with that, I mean, I would recommend that, you approve the sign permit with the condition that, with a new condition that it not, that, per the revised plans, not exceed 5 feet in height and 3.2 feet in width, or 3 foot 2 inches in width. And leave the condition in there that we get concurrence from the historic preservation officer that the colors are acceptable.
Okay. Do we have a motion to put that wording add that condition in?
I moved to add the language as Jeremy stated. I moved to add the language as Jeremy stated to the amendment, or to amend the motion.
I'll second.
Can we have roll call on adding the condition?
Gray,
Yes.
Tupin,
Yes.
Boise,
Yes,
Conley,
Yes.
and Di Benedetto.
Yes. Okay, gonna need a motion to either approve or deny the application.
Be as that's written on the application, correct?
What's that?
Has to be as it's written on that application, correct?
The revised design.
Pull that up so I don't say it wrong.
Out of curiosity now, why can't it be on the flat side of the building,
It would be too wide for that surface area.
but it's not too wide for sticking out?
The brick is about this wide, which is narrower than 3.2 feet.
And you can't do a brace on the back side?
No, because it would protrude past the width of the building.
which it does now.
No, it goes front of the building. It would, if we did it sideways, it would go horizontally protrude.
Okay, I don't, I'm talking about placing it
Yes,
in here.
the other part of the building is inset from the street. The only thing that is street,
And then having it so it's parallel to the street as opposed to perpendicular to the building?
so the portion that you were pointing to is inset several feet from the street.
Okay. And,
So we wouldn't mount a sign there.
I would like to make a motion to sign this email first. Okay. So don't we have to, and I just want to make sure that I do this correctly, that we have to accept, did we already accept the staff recommendation in the report? Or do we have to do that as well?
You will still have to do that.
Okay, so I first moved to adopt the staff report RLDR 2026-2 as finding of fact,
With the amendments stated.
with the amendments stated.
well, also the size.
Well, I thought this was just for the staff report.
The staff report, staff
But-
I'll
report,
let Jeremy.
But the staff report says 7 feet tall and, you know, the previous design. So your amendment
Okay.
was to amend the staff report, basically amend the condition on size for 5 feet. And 3.3 foot, 2 inches wide.
Made that amendment, or no? Jeremy, did we make that amendment or no?
You already made that amendment.
Okay,
That was your first motion, was to make that amendment.
okay. So, do I need to still do A, or no?
Yes. So I would just say
Okay.
that I move to adopt the staff report as findings of
amended.
fact with the previously approved amendment.
Okay. I move to adopt the staff report RLDR 2026 number 2 as finding of fact with the previously approved amendment.
My second.
Any other discussion? I'm gonna just make a comment on the original staff report that I don't believe it adequately referenced downtown historic revitalization plan or the master plan regarding maintaining the historic character of our downtown, and I just don't believe neon sign really fits that criteria. So go ahead and have a call for the roll call.
Gray,
Yep.
Tupin,
Yes.
Boise,
Yes,
Conley,
yes.
and Di Benedetto.
No.
I move to approve a design review permit LRDR 2026 number 2 to allow for a neon sign located at 112 Broadway Avenue South with the following conditions: that the use and operation and development of the property be in accordance with the plans, specifications, and documents submitted for the review, except as modified by these conditions. The sign shall be 5 feet tall and, I apologize.
Just say the previously amended approved
The
amendment.
previously amended dimensions, okay? The applicant is required to consult with the Carbon County Historic Preservation Office to evaluate and approve the proposed colors prior to installation. A copy of the correspondence shall be submitted prior to installation.
My second.
There's a second.
Joe just did.
Yeah.
Okay. Any additional discussion?
This just says that a copy of the correspondence shall be submitted, not that the Historic Preservation Office approves or denies. It just says a copy of the It doesn't say that they approve of it.
It does, says the applicant is required to consult with the Carbon County Historic Preservation Office to evaluate and approve the proposed colors.
And approve, okay.
Any additional discussion?
I appreciate the effort of them bringing it down to pedestrian size and creating that scale that is more appropriate for our downtown.
And I'm gonna oppose this again for the same reasons I stated earlier. I don't believe this sign, neon sign, is appropriate for that block. I believe it's gonna kind of detract from the Roman Theater neon sign, as well as the non-neon signs that are already present on that block. I think if we're really serious about maintaining our historic downtown streetscape, it's really important that we pay attention to the signs, and I think we're just beginning to get a little bit overloaded with neon on Broadway. So that's kind of my position. I think we've got a downtown revitalization plan, a master plan, both of which are part of our growth policy, and if we're really serious about maintaining our historic downtown, that means that we really need to focus on maintaining the pedestrian scale streetscape. Many of our signs are appropriate for Broadway. And I just don't believe neon really fits that criteria, other than with the three historic signs that we currently have on Broadway. Any additional neon's going to detract from those historic signs. So
I think that to oppose for your thought on that, I think that that's exactly an example of historic character, is the neon signs that we already have. And that this one being brought down to a more pedestrian scale does what's needed to justify or to essentially keep those signs preserved. But we see the historic examples already with neon. We see historic board approvals of neon signs, and I think that it'd be a bit contradictory to disapprove one. So that's my thought, and I think that if we are serious about it and we want to find some of those limitations, we had best consider that within our zoning code and not within these types of situations.
We did have a request for a neon sign for the Naughty Casino with the same type of jutting parallel to the building, and we turned it down.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually agree with Jeff, a rarity, but I think that it would detract from the Roman, and I too don't like the placement of this sign. I like the design. I think the design is lovely. I just don't want it sticking out from the building, detracting from the Roman. And we have set a precedent of turning it down when it was next door to the teepee of the cafe. And I know it's not as close to the Roman, but I still think that you would see this before you would see the Roman. And I don't want to detract from that.
And again, to oppose to that, it's all about where you are in pedestrian scale and where you'd be standing up to it. I think that the Roman will still take its precedent and still maintain its character.
Yeah.
And again, I think that we need to stay consistent, and even though you opposed one casino, you also approved many other neon signs throughout the area. So I worry about that consistency, and I want to remain consistent and also provide the opportunity for someone to respectfully advertise their business, and by following the rules that have been provided. So.
Well, I do agree with what Sandy said. We did set a precedent for the casino sign.
Well, we set a precedent against the jerky sign then too. So, I mean, at the end of the day, there's no precedent. I'm sorry. It's the historical signs, especially neon. We can go down the whole street. I've got one in mine that's 50 years old. You've got next door to Pizza Coat, you've got Natali's, you've got Romans across the street, you've got this cafe. I mean, you can't, I disagree with you, Jeff. I think it is part of a historical society and what we've done downtown. I don't think it's not. I think you can't say that because of the years that we have had neon on Broadway.
I consider if we start allowing them
We already do, though.
to be sticking out of a first story of a one-story building, that every single building on Broadway could also do this.
But that
And
building
that's
is
the
also
problem.
set back, Sandy. That's not, that where he's putting that sign is not directly,
It
Out
is.
into the
It's right over the sidewalk.
it's not over the sidewalk.
It is
It's
over the sidewalk.
sidewalk, where all the
It is.
other signs are.
Yeah.
I'm
And I-
sorry, that's my position.
It's-
Okay, I won't fight you
No,
anymore.
that's
I said.
fine. I don't, yeah, I won't either.
All right, guess we'll go ahead and have the roll call.
Gray,
Yes.
Tupin,
Yes.
Boise,
Yes,
Conley,
No,
Di Benedetto.
No.
and I'm sorry, but I feel pretty strongly about it hanging out. If it could be somewhere else that isn't interfering with the Roman, I would be more open to the sign.
Well, I think if they had placed it where they have their current sign,
Well, that would have been great, like
That
the
would-
Naughty did,
yep,
yeah.
I would have had less issues with it. But my concern is we keep getting proposals for neon signs, and I agree with what Chelsea says. It's something we're gonna have to address in zoning.
Yeah.
I like the non-neon kind of placard type signs that are in the majority of the businesses on Broadway. That's the Broadway historic look. And if we get a proliferate of neon, that's gonna completely change the streetscape.
Well, I think Natali's and Folo's were much smaller, and they were on the second,
No,
Much larger.
Folo's is much larger.
Folo's is
Yeah.
larger.
Polo's is actually larger than
Yep.
the original one we proposed.
And then Natali's is smaller than the one that was proposed.
But this one is the same size as the
Yeah.
one that's already proposed.
Yeah, but it's on a second floor.
No, it's not. It's always this one,
It's a
one
single-
story.
First floor.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not blocking the Roman.
And I just want to reiterate, everything complies with the published code that is available for everybody to use to design and advertise, and there's a reason why that code is published. It's guidelines, so it's fair play for everyone. And I might say if you deny neon on this, I would say, when are you going to have everybody else take their neon signs down? And because otherwise you're creating an unfair advantage for businesses that have this, that were granted this, especially that are in the same line of business. You've now created unfair advantage. So we are completely compliant with the code. There's nothing here. In fact, it's been stated on the record that the only objection is personal preference. So at this point, it's being able to build something that's within the guidelines that are published. In fact, even making an accommodation to make it smaller, that didn't really have to do, and then having the same type of advertising advantage that every other business on Main Street has.
Very well, thank you.
Is that it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so what was the vote? Was it 3-2?
3 to
Yes.
2.
So
3-2.
I believe it passed. And was approved, so I just wanted to put that on the record that it was approved at 3-2.
You got that, Connor? Okay. Moving on, the agenda, continuation of the review of our zoning regulations. I'll turn it over to you, Jeremy.
Okay. Yeah, and so before we get started, so Connor, we're up in D, manufactured home communities and RV parks is where we left off. We were starting into review of the design standards, I believe, for manufactured home and RV lots. Be on 4.4-31.
4431.
Oh, what happened there? No, you're, go down.
44431.
Yeah, I don't know. Keep going down. I'm not sure where. So it'd be, yeah, there you go. So it'd be that starting at 4 there. Sorry. I guess before we get started in this, I just wanted to add my thoughts on top of that neon sign discussion. You do have the regulations. They had submitted an application that met the requirements of the regulations. I agree with a couple of the comments that the appropriate place to address your concerns with neon in the downtown is in the zoning regulations, so that you're applying the regulations consistently to everybody. So if you don't want any more neon in the downtown, then we need to take it out of the zoning and not allow neon. So that's the appropriate way to do it. And you can cite the growth policy, the revitalization plan, downtown master plan for that removal of neon from the downtown, or we change the standards to something that you feel that is acceptable, that meets those requirements on how they do it and where it's placed and all those things. So I guess think about that. Obviously, we're a little ways away from that section of the ordinance, but think about that as we get closer to the outdoor advertising section. And let's make any edits we need to make at that time.
That sounds good, Jeremy. Yeah, I think we really need to, as a board, really need to take a look at the downtown master plan or revitalization plan and really understand what the goal and objectives and vision of our historic downtown is. And
Well, as long as it's not someone's opinion.
Yes.
I agree with that 100%.
I was actually gonna ask, is there a way that we can have some sort of presentation or professional input from a historic preservation officer or historical engineer, something along those lines? Because I think that's something that's important too, is that when we have that definition, it's not our personal opinions, it is based off historical facts. So that's my stance, is because I wasn't around in the 30s. I don't think anyone here was. So,
I can reach out to the Carbon County Historic Preservation Officer and see, provide that section of the outdoor advertising code and just get an opinion from them on, what they feel is appropriate for Red Lodge. I mean, I think it depends on where you're at, right? I mean, historic means different in every place, right? So what might be considered historic and acceptable at Billings or Dillon, Montana, or wherever, it may not be appropriate for Red Lodge, right? So I think it's very location specific. So I think that talking to the Carbon County Historic Preservation Office officer about this is probably the best place to start. And then I think we could go from there. But if you want me to, I can certainly start trying to coordinate with them and try to get some recommendations or have them review and get their feeling or thoughts on what we currently have.
Well, I think then, Jeremy, if you're gonna do that, you've got to go back to the bakery that had a neon sign. You've got to go back to Flashes that had the neon sign, the ones that were historically here as well before this and what we are doing now. I think there's even more evidence that neon has been in Red Lodge from a historical perspective since neon was, allowed at the beginning. This isn't just something that's new. I disagree with, that statement that there's too much and it's something new, and it's not. It's something that's been in this city for a long time. And Roland's a prime example of it as well, and the large sign that it currently states. So it's to have this statement of a personal preference is why I said do we go back into code of how long it's actually been allowed as well? Can we do that kind of a research as well, that what we've stated in the city?
Well, I'm guessing there probably wasn't code back 100 years ago that even regulated anything like that, right? People just did what they wanted to do, but I can certainly look into it. Again, I think the Carbon County Historic Preservation Officer is probably the first best source for any of that information, right? Because they have historical documents of what Red Lodge was like 100 years ago, right? Pictures and those sorts of things that they can reference and try to help with this. I think what we need to do is not necessarily, because I think we just got to come to a compromise on what we feel is appropriate. If we don't want to stop them, if the general consensus is we just want them done appropriately, right? We just need to set those design parameters in the regulations so that everybody starts on the same playing field, right? So that's what we need to get to is if, right now, basically all you say is neon is allowed and you're limited to 22.5 square feet. That's all your regulations say. And so if you want to regulate more than that, we need to add it in. It's
So, quick question then, what other cities have done that are more specific?
I would have to look into that for you and see if I could provide examples from other cities.
Because currently they are, just like tonight, he's compliant. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. And so if we do want to change it, what would be the language that other cities are currently using to do that change? To allow it, but to also put parameters around it.
Yep. No, I agree. I just have not done that research because the last couple of meetings is the first time we've kind of run into this, I guess, deep discussion on neon signs. So, as we get to that section, I will see what I can find for examples from other communities, historic communities. I'm sure there's examples from, say, Whitefish, Missoula downtown, Helena downtown, right? Helena has a very historic downtown. I could look at Helena's code and see what kind of design standards they have for signs in downtown.
What about like Ennis, something that's more similar to the size of Red Lodge? I mean, Helena is not a very good representation of Red Lodge, like Ennis or something more similar to our size.
Livingston's pretty damn common.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just have to see what I can find. That's
okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
I think it's important to look at those communities that have designated historic downtowns. And, and like Helena does have that.
Well, I agree, but it's not the same size. I mean, it's not the same downtown either. I'm not being confident. I'm just saying, if we can find something that's a little more, is what I was asking, that's all.
Considering our downtown is like, what, 5 blocks?
Yeah.
And it's really small.
Yeah.
Again, Livingston, just in terms of actual population, a lot of the zoning, a lot of the, actual physical characteristics, is a very good comp in terms of cities. Something that I've seen pretty frequently used in studies. So, and in terms of, again, population, demographics, and their historic downtown, because they have that historic block, and it's a little smaller than ours. So
Yeah. And I think when we are addressing all these things, and I think really the crux of it is that it's something we need to have discussed and put up there for everybody to see before we have any more requests. But there are certain types of things that we would want to leave open to consider For example, we had one where we were looking into, the feasibility of having the sign shining into somebody who has an apartment on the next floor. I mean, that's something you see a little bit on Broadway, but you don't see it everywhere. And if it's an office that's up there that only is open during the daytime, it wouldn't really seem to matter very much. But if it's an apartment that's up there, it would. So I think we should consider things like that or similar to that when we're putting the pieces together. So again, it will be up front before somebody, oh, I have a brilliant idea. I'm so excited about this, will you pass it? You know, we want it to be where everybody knows what they're stepping in before they step in it.
Well, and I think you're actually right, putting hours on when it can be visible, right? Because even, I mean, mine's on all the time. I mean, it probably shouldn't be. I'll be the first one to say it, but I just haven't really thought about it either, to be honest.
And we don't have any restriction on the time for neon signs.
Yep.
We do have a restriction that they have to be below the upper floor windows. So we do have that.
So it would be nice to, again, I'm A-okay with having hours of operation. You know, there's always room for compromise. It's just a matter of being fair.
Well, I think, I guess, to move on, but the one document that I relied on, so it was a little bit, wasn't just personal opinion. I was really relying on the 1986 revitalization plan that has a block-by-block description of what the historic downtown was. And so that's kind of where I was going from. So I think we've got the downtown designated as a historic area. We've got the 1986 revitalization plan that has a block-by-block, building-by-building description of what at that time in terms of it was. It talks about restoring some of the buildings to their historic look voluntarily, but that's kind of the vision. That's the goal. That's kind of what I was basing a lot of my opinion on, I guess. And no, that isn't really well written into our zoning, so I agree with that. So if we're going to talk about taking a hard look at the neon for the historic downtown, I think take a good hard look at that 1986 revitalization plan that has a block-by-block description, and it talks about pedestrian scale. Doesn't really mention anything about neon other than the Roman. I don't even know if it even mentions signage that neon particularly. I'd have to go back and look. But
Question on that. So just to kind of try and piece this together, so when you're going through and looking at this, at the revitalization plan, and using that as a reference were you looking at specifically that building and that site, that trying to maintain the historic value that it was, or are you trying to do it on the grand scale of all of those items together? Because, again, if that's the case, that makes it pretty, because, you know, the elements that we'll be adding in or that will be used are the same type of elements, but they mean something entirely different in different spaces. So instead of maybe defining, hey, no neon, maybe it's more so defining the blocks. That needs to be more of a factor that we're putting into our zoning, like this block is allowed X, Y, Z, and that could be then completely, essentially using that revitalization plan, but also what happens for places like the Bistro, where in the revitalization plan, that building didn't exist.
Right.
So there is that factor where it's just like, okay, so now what? Now they have to tear it down and let's train up a bear again? Or like, but again, you see my point where it's like, is it the sign that's the factor, or is it actually the block and that appeal?
yes,
So
the revitalization plan talks about blocks and maintaining that streetscape on a block-by-block scale. That's what the downtown revitalization plan talks to. So when I look at a block and I see a lot of basically not, placard type signs or whatever. I don't know what the correct terminology is. But that's kind of what the traditional kind of typical look that our downtown is looking like. So it talks about, the revitalization plan talked about the awnings being historic, and they talked about kind of that pedestrian scale, streetscape signage. So when I was looking at this sign in particular, I was thinking of it within the context of the block and the other blocks on down the street, and what was the typical kind of signage that's associated with each of those businesses. That's the context that I was going from.
Can you share that 90 or 86 document with me?
What's that?
Can you share that document with me? That 86?
It should be on the city website.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not,
I was looking at the downtown master plan that we passed in last year, and it just referred to human scale signage. And I think that's fine, but humans come in different sizes. So I was torn with the scale, human scale. Pedestrian
Yeah, I was
is the
gonna say, well, it
same.
depends on the part of town. Is it thin town or not?
Yeah, really. The
But-
tall people or the short people?
Yeah.
Well, they were all short in those
Everyone
days.
was short. So again, I think that's what I was thinking of with that sign, was the pedestrian scale specifically. And that's why I did want to see it reduced, because, and that, essentially, I thought of the front bar as a very good example of a good pedestrian scale sign that serves the purpose while also maintaining being attractive, and also it's good advertising for the folks.
Yeah.
And is historic.
Yeah.
Again, it's basically the same sign that was in all of the flash photos. So that's where my brain goes, as I think about every historical photo that I've possibly been able to process of Red Lodge. And I would love to just see if we can have that available when we start talking about that historical character and things that we can be using as reference, as opposed to just,
I think when we get into neon, we need to discuss placement of the sign, and 21.5 square feet is huge,
Yeah.
as we just saw.
and I'm good with
And
that.
7x4 is like outrageous. And the jerky store, I don't know how big that was, but it's what, 3x4, maybe 12 square feet at the most?
Ever how big it is, it looks huge from across the street.
It does, but it's about the same size as Coal Creek sign and some of the other signs. So we really need to look at the size of the square footage on those signs as well.
well, I think the other thing, just like when he was in here, the sign guy, we should consult with them, because I think, if I'm not wrong, I might be wrong, but we can also do colors. And then also brightness of the neon.
Yeah.
So we can control the brightness of it as well. So
And
there's some
same.
things that we can help with that as well.
Yeah.
I
So that
thought
it's not
neon
so,
was,
well, so that we don't end up like the Roadhouse. Like, God, the other morning I went to the airport at 4 a.m. and I thought there was a wreck in front of me because it was blinking so much,
And it's always
like
red and
10 miles
blue.
down the road. So, I mean, it's just,
I'm right there with you on that one. Yeah.
that thing is insane.
Again, there's a difference between vibrancy and distraction.
Yeah.
And I think that keeping the vibrancy is very important. It's something that's come up in all the downtown plans, and it's come up in the master planning sessions over and over, is keeping a vibrant downtown. And part of that is that nightlife aspect, and it's including the neon signs. And I'd rather have the neon sign versus the lit box sign like they have at the Naughty Casino.
they used to have.
It's still there.
Oh, they
It's
changed
just
it.
inward, flat, and you don't see it.
Yeah.
So, again, which that to me is, if I were to have a preference, and it would be more historic to me, because when I think of the box sign that's lit up, I think of the 90s and driving around when I was a kid versus like,
You drove when you were a kid?
probably should have. But anyhow,
Anyway, so there's lots of things to do once we get to the neon.
All right, we ready to move on? Back to you, Jeremy.
Manufactured home and RVs.
Oh.
Oh, I was looking at what
Okay.
he has up there.
Well, yeah, we're just gonna start into, we've already had the discussion on the RV parks, preliminary, allowing them, if it, obviously, this is not, you know, the RV parks in the city is not set in stone at this point, right? It's something you're considering at this point, but these regulations obviously have to go through public hearing and public comment and review with the planning board and the council before adoption. So this could change, and I think if that changes, that's okay. Essentially, the spots where we say and RV lots, we would just take and RV lots out, right? And it would just be manufactured home parks essentially, and those design standards for manufactured homes, parks.
Now, aren't those different
Totally,
manufactured homes and RV parks?
absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
We,
They're two different animals,
good reason to keep them
separate,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very different things.
Yeah,
different rules.
Mhm.
so yeah, we'll just get into basically what I did here was I added, essentially added, based on some of our previous discussions as well, but basically took what you had in your subdivision regulations for rent or lease, which used to apply to manufactured home and RV parks. The legislature took that out of subdivision review. And so now it has to become part of your zoning regulations if you want development standards for how these RV parks and manufactured home parks are developed. And so that's essentially what the section we're going to review next is. It's development standards for those developments. And so just starting off, basically just added in there the requirements. And I think we talked about this briefly at a couple meetings ago, but basically just added in here, similar to minor subdivision versus major subdivision, that 5 or less lots requires at least one form of ingress and egress from a public street, and dead ends must be provided with turnaround. And then more than 5 lots requires at least 2 forms of ingress and egress from a public street, and dead ends must be provided with approved emergency turnaround. So I think that addresses, that kind of follows the subdivision rules, where a minor subdivision only requires 1 access, and anything over 5 lots requires 2 accesses.
Do we have to say who's going to approve the emergency turnaround? I mean, wouldn't that be dependent on the length of the RV?
Well, emergency turnaround is for emergency services, so it's for a fire truck to get in there.
Oh, okay.
We could add in there with an approved emergency turnaround, or with an emergency turnaround approved by the fire chief or something.
Yeah. You just do fire department.
Okay. So then we just dive right into the development regulation requirements side. So basically, let's see, there's a couple of things I probably need to fix in here, but one can come out because that plats no longer apply, but spaces must be shown. Let's say spaces must be shown on the site plan and arranged to comply with building and fire codes, as well as permit the safe and practical placement and removal of manufactured homes and RVs. All manufactured homes, RVs must be located in accordance with the prevailing zoning on the property. That just means must meet setback requirements, right? Those sorts of things. Location of the units on the ground must be approximately the same as those shown on the approved plans. Precise surveying of units is not required either on the plans or on the ground. We typically don't require that level of detail for a manufactured home park since they're leased spaces. The size,
Jamie, I have a question.
yep, go ahead.
You said that, that the prevailing zoning, so the location of the units on the ground approximately is, does that mean, I can understand why a manufactured home would have to be, the side setbacks are 6 feet, so that would be 12 feet between manufactured homes?
No, because this
That
is because it's one lot that would be developed into lease spaces. It would just be setbacks from the property boundaries. So just
Oh.
essentially the outside units would have to meet the property boundary setbacks, right? The
Right.
interior dimensions would have to just comply with building code requirements. So say if building code requires separation of 12 feet between structures, then they would just have to meet that building code requirement, right?
So that's the building code. Is that the same for RVs?
RVs are not technically buildings, so I don't think that the building code applies to RVs.
So they could on 1 acre put as many RVs as they possibly could?
Well, we're getting into some of these dimensions though. So there's the next sections we talking about the space, the dimensions of each space, what we're going to require for the size of the pad essentially for each RV and manufactured home.
Okay.
So
But
that's the
not
next
the
section
space
here.
between the pads.
Yep, the next section here is the size of the manufactured home pad must be suitable for general market to be served and must fit the dimensions of the manufactured homes anticipated. At a minimum, for manufactured homes, the pad should measure 14 feet wide and 70 feet long. And at a minimum for RVs, the pad should measure 10 feet wide and 50 feet long. And all pads shall be constructed of at least 6 inches of gravel cut over a stabilized subbase. Now that's directly from your subdivision regulations. That's what you had in your subdivision regulations. I just copied and moved that over. So now would be the time if you wanted to require larger pads. Obviously for manufactured homes, 14 feet wide by 70 feet, that's a single wide trailer, right? So if this was a manufactured home park, when they were proposing double wides, obviously they would have to propose bigger pad sites that fit the homes that they're proposing in there, right? Or want in their manufactured home park. And then I think for RVs, I think the pad size of 10 feet wide by 50 feet long that seems pretty standard size for an RV. And I think it depends on if it's backing. RV parks are kind of strange in that, usually most RV parks have multiple size spaces, right? They may have spaces that don't have any hookups. They're for small travel trailers, they're back-in spaces, that sort of thing. Those could be smaller spaces, where then there's larger pull-through spaces where somebody could drive right through it, right? And they don't have to back in a large RV or a large camper. Those usually have hookups, right? We have water and sewer and electrical hookups, those sorts of things. So I think what this is referring to is really those larger pad sites for those large, because 50 feet long, that's long enough for a large travel trailer, RV, and a truck, right? To be able to pull into that site.
But it doesn't mention what the space is between the RV pad and the next RV pad. I went to one RV campground and it was very tight.
You see that quite a bit just because it's the most efficient way to hook up everything. Because you have all your electrical and all your boxes running underneath and all your plumbing running underneath.
Yeah.
And so my thought process with it, without completely debilitating the process and the setup, is, because again, I'm kind of with you, or I don't want to just see a bunch of RVs all in a row.
As much as you can pat in there.
Yeah, I really don't want it to look like a truck stop. Like,
Yeah.
personally, again, and one
I
thing
mean,
that
I
we
would
have.
say making the pad sites wider would probably, you know, the required pad site, you know, maybe make them 20 feet wide instead of 10 feet wide. Then that would give
Well-
you basically 5 feet on each side of each. So basically be 10 feet if at the center of the, you know, you basically be 10 feet between RVs. If you had,
So
Yeah,
what I was gonna say or recommend is instead of doing specific feet, because again, that's for a single wide, but then if they wanna have a double wide, now is it just the 5 feet? Can it instead be a percentage base where it's, okay, you have 14 feet wide and it needs to be 10% larger? The site for the pad has to be 10% larger than the pad of the proposed RV and or manufactured home. And then like even with the RVs, so again, talking about how they're two completely different animals, if you have the RV pad and instead of doing 10 feet wide and 50 feet long, what if you just did an overall square footage? Because again, there's a massive diversity in the types that you might see. So if you have like a small camper site, now it's a little bit shorter and more of a square shape, and they have a little bit more of this nature space around them. So it could be a square footage thing versus a specific dimension. I don't know. Those are just two thoughts.
I think we get in trouble trying to call out specific numbers is basically what you're saying.
A little bit of that, yeah. And then,
Because there's such a variety in RV sizes,
yep.
not so much in manufactured homes.
Yeah, manufactured homes I'm less worried about, but for the
So
RV specific.
on RV pad site, so basically we're at 10 by 50, we're at 500 square feet. If we went 1,000 square feet per pad site, would that be something that you'd want to do?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds, and then they can kind of choose how they space that out and how they do their hookups, because you could have at that point, instead of space between the pads, you could have two that are back to back, but then they have a nice little lush space around. So it creates a bit of a buffer without necessarily dictating how that buffer has to be in place.
And it's a little 5-foot by 6-foot long trailer.
Yeah,
So that's why I'm,
or, I mean, like in my van, it's a van, and it looks real awkward in one of those big spaces.
I know, that's why you know, Jeremy, I'm kind of leaning towards having one section for manufactured homes and having one section for RVs. They're totally different,
I agree.
and I think trying to put them together is a mistake in here. And when a developer is trying to find out about RVs, they're gonna have to try to sort out what's manufactured homes and what's, I just think that we need a division between those two instead of trying to put them together.
And again, it's completely different use models.
Yes,
Like,
One's
a
very
manufactured
temporary.
home park, that is, again, this is my house, I'm not moving that thing around 100 times.
exactly. And an RV is, you know,
It's an RV, it's
Yeah.
a recreational vehicle, it's intended for transient occupancy.
I just think that we need two separate divisions in our zoning.
I
One
agree.
for manufactured homes and one for RVs.
I'm sorry, Jeremy, more work.
Yeah, and I think.
No,
too-
that's fine. That's not a big deal. So I guess, so on RVs, we're settled on a minimum of 1,000 square feet. So I put at a minimum for RVs, the pad, let's see, for RVs, the pad should be a minimum of 1,000 square feet.
And I'm not even sure if it has to be the pad, because that's, again, where the struggle is too, is just, is there
Calling it
a
a
different way
pad.
that you can call it? Because now you're dictating that it has to be
Per unit.
per unit, per
A
proposed
space?
unit, per proposed space.
Yeah.
Space
We
is
already had one comment tonight about, we don't want RV parks, but on the other hand, that same person may or may not think, oh, where housing is concerned, workforce housing and so forth, it'd make a whole lot more sense to have the manufactured home. If you were going to do your zonings to where you were setting aside this particular part of the city or part of the house, it might be better to start with that or to put the emphasis on that to begin with. That's not to say, oh, there should never be an RV park, because we know how, all of us at one time or another has been stuck at a road crossing where we can't see around the
Oh, God.
RV that's parked there for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
So I can see us emphasizing one over the other, not necessarily eliminating one or the other, but I think we could get further along with taking care of our most needed things if we start with the manufactured home idea.
Yeah.
And just to kind of come back to the one that says that RVs can't be used or shouldn't be used as housing, I will fight back on that a bit, as I've lived in communities where that's been a massive workforce housing option, to where literally I've had multiple friends who have bought RVs specific and have lived in different RV campgrounds and sites for years on end, because it's the most affordable option for them. They own it themselves, and then when they decide they're done with this mountain, they're going to move to the next one, and it does really alleviate a lot of those concerns. I've seen it many times.
I think Yellowstone Park does exactly that, because they recognize that people are gonna be coming in for the summer.
Seasonal employees.
And I know that the two parks that we have are closed in the winter because they are on well and septic. So if it's in the city limits, they're gonna have sewer and water. And I don't know if we have anything in there, Jeremy, that says that an RV park or manufactured park must have, or whether we have to say that. I guess we don't have to, because in the city limits, you have to be hooked up to city water and city sewer.
And I think
Yeah,
that's something that-
and on the city water and sewer side, I mean, essentially, you know, they're gonna have to design water and sewer mains to serve each pad site. And so
Appropriate.
that have to go through DEQ review, city engineering review, and public works review for that level of, because you can't serve more than one space or building with a service. So anytime you're serving more than one building or RV, it has to be done with a sewer or water main that is reviewed and approved by DEQ. And it would have to meet all of DEQ's requirements for that.
So we should have that in there somewhere, or is it just understood?
No, that's just that's a DEQ requirement. I don't know that we necessarily need that in there. We certainly can, if you feel like it's needed, but, I mean, they would have to do the same thing outside the city for an RV park. They would have to, for any, you know, major RV park, it's going to be a public water and wastewater system, which would have to go through DEQ review. So it's kind of a standard process, I guess, for RV parks and manufactured home parks.
It might be smart just to refer to it, so then that way city's not trying to create additional, like, rules and restrictions when they're going through that review process of like, oh, you need to do this, that, and the other. It's like, well, DEQ told me I need to do this.
Yeah.
So I think having that little bit of hierarchy, or just like, oh, here's a quick reference versus 10 years down, because I know that was one of the issues that Alpine had, where they're like, well, DEQ told me to do this, and then a public works director told them to do something else. So that might be worth referring to.
Just a statement that says they must comply with DEQ standards.
Yep. Or DEQ standards will be considered sufficient.
Well,
Okay, yeah, I can put that in there somewhere. I guess going back to our manufactured home pad sites, or pads, what is the general, right now we have 14 feet wide and 70 feet long. There was some discussion about doing a 10 or 20% over the size of the proposed home, or did you want to keep what we have?
A 10% setback.
I like, you know, I think the term pad keeps throwing me because I'm thinking of a cement pad.
Well, that's it. It's literally defined as like a gravel, and that's why I like the space, and the pad lives within that space. Like you have a parameter for your space that the pad goes within, because if it's just the pad has to be huge, now all of a sudden you're gonna have these massive, again, concrete or gravel spaces, and I think it eliminates the purpose of having kind of a green space or a natural space between that buffer.
So on the RV side, I revised it to say for RVs, the lease or rental area should be a minimum of 1,000 square feet. And then the RV parking area shall be constructed of at least 6 inches of gravel over a stabilized subbase.
Okay. So back to the manufactured
I amended that on my end, not Connor's end.
Okay. On the manufactured home, we have 14 feet by 70 feet. So if we change that to 20 by 100, that would leave at least 3 feet between manufactured homes. But the other one would have 3 feet too, so it'd be 6 feet between manufactured homes.
Well, again, on manufactured homes, the building code may apply where I think you have to have a minimum of 12 feet between structures. That's a fire code requirement. So RVs are different. I don't think they have to meet that requirement, but manufactured homes, they're permanent housing. So, right. So I think they have to meet fire code requirements.
There has to be some green space between those. I mean, looking at the one manufactured home park we have here, I don't know what the distance is between them. It's a little short.
I mean, I think it's about 12 feet.
I think it's about 12.
Yeah. I think we're just, I mean, again.
And I would have to verify with Brian on whether or not that's accurate for manufactured homes. I don't know if it is, but my assumption is that so the standard setback is 12 feet between homes, right? So when you have construction on adjacent properties, I believe occupied structures, you have to have 12 feet between them per fire code. Otherwise, they have to have like a fire rated wall and all that stuff, right? So,
okay.
But so I assume that manufactured homes would also have to comply with that since they're a residential structure, and they're occupied, right? They're a living unit. So I would assume that they have to meet that requirement, but I'm not 100% positive on that.
Okay.
But I can double check that with Brian, and report back.
So if we look at, just did some quick figuring here, so that would be 6 feet. You would have a pad size, basically 50 to 70, and then add 6 feet on either side of that. That would be 420, and if we use 50 by 70 foot pad or space for the trailer, for the mobile home, that's 350 square feet, and then 6 feet on either side by 70 feet, that's 840 feet, so that would be basically square footage wise for each individual site would be, if I'm 1,190 square feet or about 1,200 square feet. Does that seem?
For a manufactured home?
You just said a lot of numbers.
You did. You kept saying 50 by 70, so I kind of got lost after that.
3,500, right?
So, I mean, we could say similar to the RV stuff, we could say manufactured home, lease or rental area shall be a minimum of 1,200 square feet.
1,200, yeah.
And then we again will leave the 14-foot wide because basically then that 14 feet by 70 doesn't matter. And then basically the pad where they're gonna
Yeah.
park the actual unit needs to be the gravel and sub base.
Exactly.
Same base.
Perfect. And yeah, that's my concern. I don't want to see pads that are huge. I want to see small pads in bigger spaces.
Do you have somewhere in here that a manufactured home must be on a permanent foundation?
Doesn't have to be though.
I mean, I think that's a building, I mean, we can add it. I think that's building code requirement. And define permanent foundation. So a lot of manufactured homes are on blocks with tie downs. That's considered a permanent foundation for a manufactured home.
Because
And in a
the HUD approved foundation.
And that's just if you want it detitled. So again, I don't think that's necessary or always the situation.
I mean, a HUD approved foundation is blocks and tie downs on the corners.
Tie downs, correct.
Yep.
And that would be the
So-
minimum.
That would be the minimum, and usually that's reviewed as part of a building permit. So that would be something Brian, I think, would look at when he's issuing building permits for those.
You have to do a building permit for a manufactured home?
Mhm, if you put them on a.
For the foundation, I think you do, yeah.
What is it? anything
The home itself is already permitted by the state. They come with
Right.
like a tag.
Right.
But the foundation would have to still get a building permit.
Ah,
Anything over 750 feet, found that out.
Well, because we also have extra, with snow load as well, and we have other things that we require differently than,
yeah.
yeah, because that goes for the review for that too.
Yeah, I just don't want them to still be on their wheels.
Yeah,
We have a lot of wind.
Right.
And snow.
Have a
and
manufactured home blowing down the road.
yeah, we see it on TV all the time.
We'll have tire chips, it'll be fine.
tires on top of it.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
I know we're beating this to death.
So we did have some discussion about separating out an RV section and a manufactured home section, so.
Yeah, I'll have to rework that,
Well,
so that I can.
I'm just asking if that's kind of the consensus here.
Yeah,
And I'm hearing that, so how would that look, Jeremy? You basically have a section where we address all the requirements for manufactured home, and then a separate section for the RV.
Yeah,
RV
so
park.
basically like this one, I would say C would be manufactured home development requirements. And then I would have D would be RV park lot development requirements. So I would just split them out into two separate sections.
Okay.
should we wait to go over this once they're split out?
That's
Yeah,
up to
perfect.
you.
We've got like 20 minutes left and I know we're bogging down on this.
I think it'd be easier myself.
Yeah, and that's exactly why we're splitting it out, because the things are different, so, yeah, let's go through them separately.
Okay, so you want me to split it up and send you a revised
Oh, yeah.
copy? And we'll
Yeah.
revisit this at a future meeting?
Yes, please.
Yep, yes.
Okay,
That's,
the next section
That's-
then is RV or manufactured home and RV park street development requirements. Did you want me to split those out too? I think it looks to me like we don't have them really split out. Looks like it's the same street requirements for both. As far as street width, parking requirements, all that sort of stuff.
I mean, I think that you could probably change those too, because the parking requirements would obviously be different. When you're actually gonna have cars pulling up and staying there, you don't have a whole lot of like, you're driving the RV in some scenarios,
Or
right?
towing it.
Yeah,
No,
Yeah.
it would be.
so again, it's
agree.
one of those where,
Again, I don't think they should be together. Even if you have to repeat it, I'd rather see one complete section for manufactured homes and one
Okay.
complete section for RVs.
All right, I I'll just rework this section then per that guidance and, we'll get something back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So in the time that we have left, maybe still kind of quickly sort of review some of the other things that you were, sections, does that make sense, or?
In that, are you talking about in that section? Like the street
Yeah.
development requirements? Yeah, I mean, that's fine. It's up to you, or we can jump to the next section, which is manufactured housing and factory built housing on a single lot.
Okay.
But that's up to you. If you want to continue going through the RV park and manufactured home park requirements, we can do that, or we can jump to the next section.
What's folks' thoughts?
I kind of like jumping to the manufactured homes on a single lot because we have seen those in Red Lodge and it is okay. And that's a whole different thing because you actually own the land.
And it's specific to one of the two topics, so versus
Yeah.
the other. Cool.
It's still manufactured homes, but it's on a single lot.
Yeah, and it's just manufactured homes, not RVs too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I don't mind skipping to that part and avoiding the other.
All right, so I've updated this section basically to meet current MCA requirements for manufactured housing and factory built housing on a single lot. So I have, the previous title of this was manufactured homes on a single lot. To be more compliant with current MCA requirements, they've lumped manufactured housing and factory built housing into the statutes. So there's a difference, right? Manufactured housing comes on a frame with wheels and a hitch, right? So that's your standard mobile home, double wide, type home that comes in and you place it, you put it on the foundation and you take the wheels off and the hitch and the lights and all that stuff and put skirting on, right? Factory built housing is modular housing, right? So that's still housing that's built in a factory, but it doesn't have a frame. They basically set it on a trailer. They trailer it to the site and then they use a crane to set it on a prepared foundation. So those are going to be more typical of your stick built housing, right? Where they're going to have some kind of a crawl space or slab foundation that they just set the factory built house on. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does this include containers?
No, we'll get to storage containers later. I think I added. You already had a section on storage containers, I thought.
Storage containers used as housing.
Yeah, this would not be storage containers.
Okay.
We would have to, and I think that was when we get further down in the regulations, that's one thing I was going to discuss on whether or not you wanted to add restrictions for storage containers being used within the city of Red Lodge. I know I just got done working with the town of Culbertson to add stuff to their zoning to restrict the use of storage containers for basically town of Culbertson said we don't want them unless they're used for temporary use for construction storage or for very limited uses. They're not to be used as permanent accessory structures or primary structures at all within the town. And so I think if you wanted to do that, we would just add a new section under this section of the regulations that outlines that for storage containers. But we can talk about that later. That was something I was going to talk to you about once we get to the end of this chapter. So
where you say factory built housing, I wonder if, just to kind of help clarify, if in parentheses we had modular housing, just to kind of when you say modular, that tells me it's something different than the typical mobile home.
Well, so down
That's-
here, I have the definitions lower down. So, and those definitions are taken right from the Montana state law. And so
Okay.
if it were me, I would stick with the what's in Montana code, for these definitions, because they're very specific, on what each one of these is and is not. If that makes sense.
Okay.
What about tiny homes? Where do they fall?
That's a good
Or-
question. I think it depends. I think it depends on if it's on a trailer, like a manufactured house, right? That has a hitch and
Okay.
wheels and the whole 9 yards, or if it's one of those ones you see that's, sitting in a parking lot on the ground, that somebody would bring to the site on a trailer and set down on a pad or something, right? Or some sort of foundation. I think it would just depend on which scenario you are. I've seen them both ways. I've seen tiny homes that are built on a flatbed trailer. And I've seen, but then you have a lot of them now that are built, and they're just transported on a trailer and set on site on some sort of foundation. So I think that could be considered a factory built house or a modular.
Okay.
So would it be worth defining that? Again, is it worth having its own section, kind of like with having the storage containers, to where we have a definition that it's essentially permanent housing under X square footage? And that's how we define the tiny home. And if it's considered permanent, otherwise it kind of falls into that RV.
Wheels or not.
Yeah, wheels or not, like, if it's intended to be there for permanent structure and permanent living, I think that's what considers it, whether it's on wheels or whether it's coming on a trailer or whether someone's building it out of tires in their backyard.
Or whether it's a storage shed and they converted it. I mean, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, as long as it's
It
intended
shouldn't
for
matter
living
then.
use.
Yeah.
And it's under a certain square footage. I think that's what really makes it tiny, is the size of it.
Yeah, I think that you're right, that tiny homes fall under either the factory-built housing with wheels, or it falls under the factory assembled. So it's either modular or it's a manufactured home.
Yeah, it's either factory built housing or I would say that most tiny homes are probably going to fit under your factory built housing. Because if you look at this definition, it says means a factory assembled structure intended for residential use. It's equipped with the necessary surface connections, but is not made to be readily movable as a unit or units. Is designed to be used with a permanent foundation, and it's not certified by HUD, but meets inspection requirements. So that would be where Brian would have to review that for building code requirements, right? Because HUD is not certifying that. It's built to that standard. So that's where they would need a building permit for the building and the foundation, from Brian. So I think most of your tiny homes are going to fit under that factory built housing definition.
Yeah, okay.
In my opinion.
From a building code side, there's actually two different sets of standards, because they don't have the same requirements for ceiling height, stair clearances. So there's actually a separate appendix that when they build them under that, that's a whole separate set of
A
code.
different building code, a tiny home is.
Yep.
Again, to me, it's not factory-built housing, it's its own thing.
So, I mean, I think, again, I take this direct, I mean, this whole section was modified basically, I shouldn't say basically, it says what's in Montana code, right? So these are the Montana code requirements. And I think the important thing to keep in mind on this is we don't treat manufactured housing or factory built housing any different than stick built housing. Montana code is very strict about their just because it's a manufactured home, you cannot treat it differently than a stick-built house, if it's on its own individual lot. Right?
Yep.
And so they would meet the same zoning district requirements as far as density, setbacks, height, lot coverage, right? Floodplain compliance, all those things would still apply.
The state says they can't be dealt with separately
No, so
because you can get a loan on a modular home in a minute, but you cannot, it's harder to get a loan on a manufactured home, even if it's on a permanent foundation.
Those are banking requirements. Those are completely different things from city code. So the MCA specifically says that cities and zoning cannot, it's implied that, manufactured and factory built housing is the same as stick built housing, and it will not decrease property values and blah, blah, blah. So that's
Okay.
complete, you're talking something completely different than what we're required as a city to allow.
Okay.
And that's what this last section essentially says. It says no zoning standard shall treat manufactured housing or factory built housing differently from other residential dwelling units. In any proceedings for permit or variance to place manufactured housing or factory built housing within a residential zoning district, there's a rebuttable presumption that placement of the manufactured home or factory built home will not adversely affect property values of conventional housing. So that's taken right out of Montana code. You cannot treat it differently.
Not. Zoning can't.
Zoning can't. Yes. This is specific to land use regulations. So
Yeah, I'm gonna ask Jeremy, is that actually something that HOAs have to comply with as well? Because I find that
Subdivisions don't allow,
some of them, yeah,
some do,
No.
some don't.
right?
No, covenants and HOAs are completely different animal than city.
Oh.
This is specifically in for land use regulation. So covenants are private agreements. There may be something in covenant law that maybe has that, but this is very specific to, getting permits or variances or anything like that through a city or a county. This would apply to counties too, right? If there's any kind of zoning in a county, right, it would apply to that as well. But HOAs are kind of treated, they're different animal than cities and counties. I don't know what, if any, there are restrictions on what HOAs can and can't allow. I do know that you can write private covenants that say no manufactured housing. I have covenants in my little area of the lots that were developed in the 70s. The covenants say no manufactured housing. Everything has to be stick built, has to be a minimum of 1,000 square feet.
It's pretty common.
I think, but those are private restrictions. What this regulation is in code is for public restrictions, meaning the cities and counties cannot restrict this type of housing just because it's manufactured or factory built.
Got it.
Well, with that, it's almost 7:15. Do you want to jump into accessory dwelling units or you want to wait?
No.
No.
ADUs?
I think we'll kind of bring the meeting to conclusion, go down to the next item on the agenda.
Okay.
And kind of come back to this at our next meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy.
Jeremy, it's always a delight to have you.
Sorry. I feel like I should apologize.
I know, every time.
We'll get there. We're slowly getting there, but we'll get there.
We just want to make sure you get a paycheck, man.
It's funny when it says it won't affect the surrounding values. Right.
Lost my agenda.
Oh, here,
Public comment?
that's got green all over it, but
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda is written correspondence, staff communication, and updates.
I guess for me, we did get a new design review application in for what they're calling the Landmark building. I'm trying to remember where it's at now off the top of my head. Hold on a second, and I will open this up and see. So basically, they're proposing a multi-story, multifamily building at, let me get to it. It would be at, basically on Oaks Avenue between 10th and 9th.
It's across from the market.
So they've come in for a design review for that. That was submitted this week, so I will work on my completeness review. That should be coming your way for your review, hopefully the first meeting in August, but depending on my completeness review, maybe the second meeting in August.
And still nothing expires?
No, I get emails back and forth from them on questions and giving them answers, but we have not seen a submittal back on our sufficiency comments. So, and then the only other thing I have is I'm actually not going to be available for the meeting on the 22nd. So there's two options. You can either continue with Connor, and you'll have my suggested edits to the next section that you can review for the zoning, or we can cancel that meeting and move our review to the first meeting in August.
I'm probably not going to be here on the 22nd either.
Well, fine, I'll go somewhere too.
I think I might actually be out of town as well.
Wait a minute.
Hey, so that works out well then. My family, my oldest son and my grandbaby, most importantly, is going to be here that week. So we got lots of stuff planned for that week. So
there's two of us not going to be here on the 22nd. So
I say,
should we just postpone?
I think that we should go ahead and cancel the meeting on July 22nd. That would be my recommendation.
I second.
Jeff will too.
that sounds good. I will. That'll give me more time to do some more stuff in front of you guys on the zoning, anyways. So
do we need to do a roll call on canceling the meeting, or just?
I feel like we have before.
What's that?
I feel like we've done that before. I'm not worried about people saying, no, we have to be here, but.
Better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
So we've got a motion to cancel the meeting for July 22nd.
And a second?
Second.
Have a vote, please.
Gray,
Yes.
Shupin,
Yes.
Boise,
Yes.
Conley,
Yes.
and Di Benedetto.
I'll not say no.
that's all I have.
Okay. I get a quick question, I guess. You said a 5-story building?
Oh no, I don't think that's right. I said multi-story building. Let me see. I can tell you how many stories. I think it's either 3 or 4. I don't want to say 3. It's 3 stories.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
the max.
That sounds better.
Yeah, three stories.
That would
Yeah,
go for zoning.
I think it's a nice looking building, but we'll complete our completeness review, and that, like I said, that should come to you guys in August. So.
Is it all stucco?
All right, I guess,
It is
that all,
not
Jeremy?
stucco. That is all. Yeah,
That
that's
it?
all I have.
all right, next on the agenda is petitions, communications from the audience, so I'll kind of open this up for another public comment period. Go ahead, Mayor.
I'm gonna backtrack this a little bit. Jeremy, is postponing that meeting gonna make us miss any deadlines on statutory requirements for response, or are we still good? Meaning, will we have to do another meeting the next week or something to keep it there? Are we good?
No, we'll be fine. My completeness review for the new building review isn't even due till July 16th, which is the end of next week, basically. And then we still have we have to advertise a minimum of 15 days for the public hearing. So that puts us into August pretty much anyways, so. I think
Okay,
we're
thank you.
fine. My recollection from the regulations is once the completeness is reviewed, or once the application's complete, then the planning board has 30 days to review the design review,
My
and make a
recollection is well,
decision.
thanks.
So we should be well within that, so.
Any other comments from the public? If nobody's online, is there?
We do have people online. Oh, nope, not anymore.
Just me.
All right. I'll call the meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, everyone.